Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year with Ochudai, and today is day 98. We have 267 days to go. I chose to read the Bible in 1 year because I want to get to know God for myself. I want to test the principles and the theories that are in the Bible. I want to find the stories. I want to know what is true and what is popular story, popular myth. I also want to discard what is no longer serving according to my understanding and interpretations. The interpretations and lessons I share are my own. You may disagree with them, and that's okay because then you could go read it for yourself and see what it says. I believe that if I make an error in interpretation, God will help me understand the better interpretation. That said, today is day 98 and we're steadily making progress. It's been tough and easy and fun and funny and upsetting and sad and depressing. All right, so today is Deuteronomy 32, 30. We're reading verses 30 to 52. We're taking time to close Moses' end here. I use this as my Bible guide, a daily reading guide, and every day we read an Old Testament, a New Testament, a Psalm, and a Proverb. So our Old Testament reading today, Moses' death is foretold. Finally, the curtain is drawing on Moses. After the song, remember yesterday Moses composed a song for the Israelites, those naughty Israelites, right? And he taught the songs to the elders and they learnt it. That very day, God didn't even waste time. That very day, the same day God told Moses to go to Moab. Moab was a country they had picked a fight with that they were going to fight with eventually. Climb Mount Nebo from across Jericho and look across the land of Canaan, the land I promised to give to the Israelites. You'll die there and join your ancestors, just as Aaron died on Mount Hor. You both betrayed me. When somebody says you betrayed me, that means they were really hurt. And let me take you back to the story we read back maybe like last month when we encountered the story. God took the Israelites, they were at Jericho. They were already approaching in fact, they were across from the promised land, meaning that they would have entered the promised land in about a year. But while they were across there, God asked Moses to do something. Moses, I'm not really sure, but maybe he took God for granted because God said, speak to the rock or strike the rock, and Moses spoke to it. Or Moses struck the rock when God said, speak to the rock. Yes. And so God was terribly offended and he said, strip Aaron of his priestly titles immediately and hand over to his son Eleazar. He's going to die there. And he was taken up there and he died. And then Moses remained with the Israelites for another maybe 38 years. Maybe 38 years. In that time they went around the wilderness because God said, go back, go back. So now Moses has come back to that place where that incident took place. You know, where he was going to go there and he was going to die there. You will die and join your ancestors just as Aaron did on Mount Hor. You both betrayed me at the waters of Kadesh in the Zin wilderness. You failed to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel. So greet the land from afar. Hello, promised land. And from a distance, because you may not enter into that promised land. And that ends our Old Testament reading today. It's a very sad end to the glorious life that Moses led, and which is really scary because that means that you can really do all things right. I feel like the end of your life should really be better than how it started. So you can do all things right and things can end up badly. Moses slept. I'm not really sure why God took that particular sleep personal, but I feel like he felt that Moses took him for granted. And if Moses did, then he has no one here who would obey him. And it's very important to him that nobody messes with the order. I am God. You listen and obey me. And you felt like you could do what you want, no more. So God kind of like got angry. Moses pleaded, but God said, I don't want to hear it. Enough. You're not going to enter. And this was God now fulfilling that instruction several years later. So that ends our Old Testament reading today. Our New Testament reading is Luke. Now it's talking about making sure every single time, always be ready. Always. So I was at an event yesterday. A friend of ours was being celebrated. He's been given a very highly placed position in the government of our country. And it was a dear friend. I've known him from long before we got married. He's my husband's, like one of his bosom friends. And one of the things everyone kept saying about this friend of his was this guy was just waiting for the opportunity to demonstrate capacity, competence. He was ready. So this, as I was reading the scripture, I was reminded of how ready this guy has been. And here Jesus is saying in the book of verses Luke 12 Luke 12 verses 35 to 59, it says, be dressed for service, be ready always. Keep your lamp burning as though you were waiting for the master to return home from a wedding feast. Be ready, people. Ready people are always rewarded. He'll even serve them what he brings. And this reminds me of my kids. If my husband and I go out for, say, an event, a party or something, and anyone would maybe you bring some takeaways, right? Anyone who is up when you get home is lucky. They get to eat the takeaway. Maybe you bring dessert or something. Oh, they get to enjoy it. Sometimes we say keep for your sister who is sleeping, but anyone who's awake. So it's that kind of readiness that God is talking about. Always ready to answer to the master whenever God calls you. So whether God comes at midnight, whether he comes at dawn, stay ready. That's basically what Jesus is saying here. It's like knowing exactly when a burglar attempts to burgle your house and you are ready. Imagine knowing that the burglars want to burgle my house today, and then at the moment they attempt it, you intercept them. Yeah, that kind of readiness. That's what God is saying. Be ready for God. And then Peter, our dear friend Peter, I always laugh at Peter because Peter is so spontaneous. So he says, are you giving this instructions for us? Is this instruction for us or is it for everyone else? So Jesus tries to illustrate further. A master can hand over a responsibility if he is sure that the servant will do a good job. But if he's not sure the servant will do a good job, he'll probably show up unexpectedly and catch the servant. Maybe the servant goes partying when he's been kept as a steward over the house. So if he feels like the guy will not do a good one, he'll just go partying. The master can show up unannounced, and when he catches him, he'll punish him, right? So if a servant knows what the master wants but does not prepare, it's like as though he didn't know. It's like as though he didn't know. And I wrote here, he'll collect. So in Nigerian parlance, one of the slangs that's quite popular now is when somebody says you are going to get into trouble, they will use the word you collect. So they will say you collect trouble. That's really the root word of that. So they say you collect. So I wrote here that if he doesn't do what the master wants or he doesn't prepare, he'll collect. He'll collect. But so every time small responsibilities, small reward. Big responsibilities, big reward. If you want a big reward, be ready to shoulder big responsibilities. And so Jesus continues talking. Misha, I'm using my Nigerian parlance now. Misha, I hope there's a Nigerian watching me today. Me, Jesus, I didn't come to make peace. I came to make war. I came to set the world on fire. I have a terrible baptism of suffering ahead of me, and I won't rest. I won't rest until it is accomplished. This is Jesus now telling his disciples that, look, I'm going to go to the cross, but he's saying it in figurative terms. He says here, I have a burden that won't rest until it is accomplished. Me, peace? I didn't come for peace, man. I didn't come for peace. I came to set people against each other. I came to set you guys up. I came to set father against son, mom against daughter, daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. The idea is that I came to make people choose between me and the world they want to live. I am bringing a new life, a new order, a new way of seeing things. So I'm here to choose. I'm here to make you guys choose. And that's going to set a lot of houses, and separate a lot of houses. You're going to set some houses on fire. Okay? So you see the clouds right now. You see the cloud? Can you see, guys? Yeah. You see that cloud right now? You can tell that it's going to rain, right? That's how it is. That's how it is. But many of you can read the weather. You can tell when it's going to rain. You can tell when it's going to be hot, when it's going to be cold. But you can't read the signs of the times. Things are happening around you guys. There's a whole spiritual movement taking place. Something awesome, something big, something changing the world is going to happen. Something that will change the way the world is forever. It's about to happen, and you're not even sensitive. Look, guys, decide for yourself what is right, okay? Decide for yourself what is right. If you get dragged to court, think that Jesus uses a lot of stories and allegories to and similes to illustrate his stories, metaphors, and he to illustrate his stories. Sorry. So he says, look, if someone is dragging you to court, attempt to settle the matter before you get into court. Right? That's a wise thing to do. That's how I want you to think. That's how I want you to think. Otherwise, if you don't settle before you get into court, you may not escape prison, and you may be made to pay dearly for that, for slacking to do the right thing. So that's Jesus talking about making sure you are always ready, making sure you seize the moment, making sure you are not caught unawares. So that ends our second reading, our New Testament reading. As usual, I'm going to read our Psalm and our Proverbs, and I like to read them directly. So Proverbs 12:24 says, work hard and become a leader, and be lazy and be a slave. So let's finish Psalm 78. We're still reading from the NIV today. Let's finish Psalm 78. We're going to be reading from verse 46 to 58. So let me just quickly get to 46. He gave their crops to the grasshopper, their produce to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore figs with sleet. He gave over their cattle to the hail, their livestock to bolts of lightning. This is describing what happened in Egypt when God was about to rescue the Israelites. Sounds like the song that Moses taught them yesterday. He unleashed against them his hot temper, his wrath, his indignation, his hostility, a band of destroying angels. Wrath, indignation, hostility are actually angels, or demons maybe. He prepared a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave them over to the plague. He struck down all the firstborn of Egypt, the first fruits of manhood in the tent of Ham. But he brought his people out like a flock. He led them like sheep through the desert. He guided them safely so that they were unafraid, but the sea engulfed their enemies. Thus he brought them to the border of the Holy Land, to the hill country his right hand had taken. He drove out nations before them, allotted their land to them as an inheritance. He settled the tribes of Israel in their homes. But they put God to the test. Sorry, I have to look down. This Bible is a bit heavy, so it's not easy to hold. So they put God to the test. They rebelled against the Most High, and they did not keep his statutes. Just like God was telling Moses, this is a story much later in the life of the Israelites. And just like God was telling Moses in our Old Testament reading, those guys are not going to follow through. They put God to the test. And like their fathers, they were disloyal and faithless, unreliable as a faulty bow. They angered him with their high places, and they aroused his jealousy with their idols. So we're going to stop here for today. We're going to stop here, and we'll continue verse 78 tomorrow and finish up. So that brings to the end our Bible readings today. I hope you learned something. One of the things that I know is that a lot of the Bible is filled with a lot of common sense, and I'm really enjoying seeing that it's very important not to slack. It's very important. So I wasn't discouraged, but I felt a bit tired when I started doing this, and I thought, oh, did I take on more than I could chew, combining it with all the other things I was doing? But I believe that if I use my time wisely, I'll be able to get more done. So this is God saying, look, work hard, become a leader, be ready, use your time well, and then your time will come to your time is finite here. So just like Moses, it will come to an end. So make the most of the time while you have it. Those are my lessons from today's scriptures. So if you have enjoyed this, please share, like, subscribe to my channel, please. If you are curious about the Bible, or if you want to leave a comment on what I've said today, say something in the comments below, and I'll see you. I'm going to try to make some shots of this scripture so that I can bring some of the cogent points together. Alright then, so I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you, and have a good day.